The hiss of decompressing air filled Kara's ears as the alien vessel's docking clamps locked into place. Her job didn't usually start with a cold ship. It wasn't standard procedure to board a freighter without a call for help or a request for maintenance. But this ship was silent. No messages, no crew hail, not even a NAV beacon ping. Just the automated docking request, received hours ago. It was odd enough that the station's traffic control had called her down to the bay. Kara walked briskly, her boots clanking against the reinforced plating of the maintenance deck. The docking bay was cavernous, filled with a faint hum from far reaches environmental stabilizers. Beyond that hum, all was quiet. The freighter sat dark and still under the artificial lights, its exterior glistening faintly. "What the hell?" she muttered, stepping closer. There was a sheen to the hull, a strange pattern of water-like streaks running along its sides. That alone made her stop. This far out in deep space, it wasn't like a ship to carry water on its exterior plating. When she reached the gangway, her hand brushed her tool belt. "Just a quick look," she said under her breath, not entirely sure who she was reassuring. Climbing the ramp, Kara switched on her wrist-mounted light. The beam pierced the ship's interior, illuminating narrow corridors with faint condensation clinging to the walls. The cargo hold door was slightly ajar, and the smell that hit her was unexpected, briny, almost earthy, like a tide pool. Inside the hold, she found chaos. Empty crates lay scattered, their lids wrenched off. Straps that should have held cargo secure were dangling loose. Something had left deep gouges in the flooring, curved scratches that ran in confused patterns. The more she looked, the stranger it seemed. There was no sign of the crew, no sign of struggle, just silence, and those odd scratches leading further into the hold. Following them, Kara spotted movement. Something small darted behind a toppled container. She froze, her pulse quickening. A stowaway? A wild animal? She adjusted her light, trying to see around the edge of the container. "Hey!" she called out, keeping her voice steady. "Who's in here? Come out slow, and we can dash." The words caught in her throat as the creature stepped into her light. It wasn't an animal, not exactly. The small, white-scaled figure stood on 4 legs, its pale skin almost translucent. Thin wings pressed tightly to its sides, quivering. Kara could just make out faint veins beneath its surface. The creature's eyes reflected the beam of her light, large and shining like liquid silver. And it wasn't alone. Covering its back and trailing down its tail were barnacles, clusters of rough, organic growths, pulsating faintly as if they were alive. The creature shifted, letting out a faint, high-pitched trill that made Kara wince. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The little thing just stared at her, its tiny chest rising and falling rapidly. "Well, you're not exactly what I expected," Kara muttered, kneeling down slowly. She set her light on the floor, illuminating them both. The creature tilted its head, watching her with those unblinking, reflective eyes. The mechanic didn't know what she'd stumbled into. She only knew one thing for sure. Whatever had happened aboard this ship, the creature in front of her was scared, vulnerable, and, judging by the barnacles crusted on its wings, in need of help. Kara leaned against the diagnostic table in Dr. Levitan's lab, arms crossed, watching him examine the odd little creature. The albino dragon, no larger than a housecat, lay there quietly, chest rising and falling, its translucent scales shimmering under the harsh lights. The barnacles encrusting its tail and legs were faintly pulsing, and Kara couldn't decide if they made the creature look more pitiful or more alien. She'd taken to calling it Barnacle because, well, what else was she supposed to call it? Levitan, the station's xenobiologist, had been on Far Reach for almost a decade, cataloging strange life forms brought back by miners, salvagers, and the occasional wayward explorer. He ran his scanner over Barnacle's barnacle-covered wing. The device chirped and blinked, displaying data on the terminal beside him. "Anything?" Kara asked, her voice heavy with impatience. Levitan didn't look up. "Anything? Kara, I'm looking at a species that doesn't exist in any known database. Of course there's something. I'm reading bioelectric activity through the barnacles themselves. Bioelectric, Kara repeated. You mean like nerves? Levitan finally glanced her way, his excitement barely contained. Not nerves, exactly. These barnacles, if that's even what they are, aren't just parasitic growths. They're some sort of symbiotic organism, feeding off the dragon's bioelectric field. They appear to be drawing energy, yes, but they're also sending signals back into the host. They could be altering its metabolism, affecting its growth. It's fascinating. Kara rubbed her temples. Fascinating doesn't help me figure out what to do with it. The barnacles are everywhere. They're weighing it down. It's barely got the strength to move its wings, let alone fly. Levitan set his scanner down and gently touched the edge of one barnacle with a gloved hand. The creature flinched, a faint whimpering sound escaping its throat. Removing them directly would be risky. If these barnacles are integrated into its physiology, taking them off by force could cause serious damage. The question isn't just how they got there, but why. Why? Kara frowned. What do you mean? The scientist leaned on the table, peering into the dragon's reflective eyes. A species like this doesn't evolve in isolation. Barnacles might be a natural occurrence for them, or they might only develop under specific conditions: environmental stress, separation from a social group, something in their food supply. Until we know more, I'd be cautious about intervening. Kara glanced down at the little dragon, who looked up at her with what she could only describe as a pleading expression. It had been following her around the station since she first found it, sticking close to her side as if she were its only source of safety. Even now, its tiny claws lightly clutched at the edge of her sleeve. I can't just let it suffer, she said, more to herself than to Levitan. I mean, look at it. Those barnacles are killing it, aren't they? Levitan's shoulders rose and fell in a reluctant shrug. It's hard to say. The stunted, yes, and the barnacles aren't helping. But the creature's life signs are stable. If it's in pain, it's not obvious, though. That doesn't mean it's comfortable. Kara leaned closer, studying the pale, scaly body and the strange patterns of the barnacles. You said they're feeding off its bioelectric field. Could that mean something's missing? Like maybe it's supposed to have something else giving it energy, and these barnacles took over when it lost that. Levitan gave her a thoughtful look. An interesting theory. If these creatures are social or rely on an environmental factor such as a specific radiation or another life form, then removing that factor might lead to an imbalance. The barnacles could be compensating. She nodded slowly. So if I can figure out what it's missing, I might be able to help it without, scraping them off. Levitan rubbed his chin. It's possible. I'd need more time to study it. But I think the more immediate question is, where did it come from? If we can track its origins, we might find others of its kind, others without barnacles. That could tell us what conditions it needs. Kara stood straight, her mind racing. The ship she'd found it on had scrambled logs and no crew. No obvious signs of an accident or attack. Just the dragon and its crusty stowaways. If she could fix the alien ship's damaged data systems, maybe she could trace its last route. That might lead her to the environment Barnacle was supposed to be living in, and maybe the answer to its condition. All right, she said, her voice firm. You keep running your tests. I'll start on the ship. We find out where it came from, and maybe we figure out how to help it. Levitan smiled faintly. A bold plan. Let me know what you find. In the meantime, I'll keep this little one comfortable. As Kara left the lab, the tiny dragon let out a faint chirping noise. She turned back, giving it a reassuring nod. Don't worry, Barnacle. We'll fix you up. I promise. Kara stood in the dimly lit cargo bay of the derelict alien freighter, tools scattered around her feet. She'd spent the better part of a week piecing through the mess of fried circuits, dead power relays, and scrambled data cores, but she'd finally managed to coax the ship's onboard systems back to life well, just enough to access a handful of logs. The fragments she found were maddeningly incomplete, the alien script unlike anything she'd seen. It was Vega, her friend and sometimes smuggling partner, who stumbled on a breakthrough. "Hey, Kay," Vega called from the corner of the bay where he'd been poking through a pile of discarded alien tech. He held up a cracked tablet, its screen flickering. "I think I've got something." Kara wiped her hands on her coverall and took the tablet. It was old, clearly not from the freighter itself. The alien symbols lit up faintly, and with a few adjustments, a crude star chart emerged. It showed a section of space that was largely uncharted, a swath of territory near a massive blue giant star. There were no planetary labels, no recognizable waypoints, just a vague route plotted through the void. This might be where they picked up Barnacle," Kara said, staring at the map. "It's a long shot, but it's the only clue we've got." Vega scratched his chin. "That's some pretty remote space. No established trade routes, no friendly outposts. What's out there that would make anyone stop by?" "Maybe something rare," Kara guessed. "A resource, a relic, something worth the trip. If it's where Barnacle came from, it could be the key to fixing its condition." Vega gave her a skeptical look. "So you want to just head off into the middle of nowhere chasing a half-broken map? You're really getting attached to this little lizard." "It's not just about the dragon," Kara replied. "Something happened to that freighter, Vega. The crew's gone, their logs are scrambled, and we've got a creature on board that looks like it belongs to a completely different world. Whatever went down, I need to know." A smile crept onto Vega's face. "You just can't resist a mystery, can you?" Kara gave a small shrug. "You know me, and besides, I'm pretty sure Barnacle's counting on us." That sealed it. A day later, Vega's sleek courier ship, the Wayfinder, set out from Far Reach Station, following the alien map's plotted course. Barnacle sat curled on Kara's lap in the cramped co-pilot seat, trilling softly. Kara absent-mindedly scratched behind its head, feeling the smooth, cold scales beneath her fingers. As they neared the blue giant, their sensors picked up the remnants of an ancient outpost orbiting a rocky moon. The station was faintly powered, its design completely alien. Tall, spindly towers rose from the surface, their metal a dull, corroded green. "I'm not seeing any life signs," Vega said, his fingers dancing over the ship's controls. "But there's definitely energy readings. Something's still running down there." Kara's heart raced. "Set us down. I'll check it out." "You sure about that?" Vega asked, glancing over his shoulder. "What if this is what got the freighter's crew? I don't exactly want to join them in disappearing." "Then don't follow me in," Kara said, unbuckling her harness. "Keep the engines hot. If things get weird, you take off and don't look back." He gave her a reluctant nod, and the Wayfinder touched down gently on a landing pad that had seen centuries of wear. The outpost's airlock hissed open as Kara stepped inside, her boots crunching against dust and debris. Her handheld scanner beeped steadily, picking up faint energy traces. The interior was a maze of narrow corridors and cavernous chambers, lined with alien markings and long-dead machinery. As Kara made her way deeper, Barnacle, perched on her shoulder, grew more restless. It shifted uneasily, whining in a low, anxious tone. "What is it?" Kara whispered, turning her head to look at the little dragon. It was staring intently down the hall, toward a faint glow coming from a sealed door. Kara approached cautiously, her scanner reading a surge of bioelectric energy behind the door. With a few careful adjustments, she unlocked the ancient mechanism. The door groaned open, revealing a small chamber dominated by a large, crystalline stasis pod. Inside the pod was another creature like Barnacle, but larger, its scales shimmering with a faint iridescence. Unlike Barnacle, its body was free of barnacles, its wings fully extended in a regal, pristine display. Its closed eyes slowly fluttered open as the pod's systems detected Kara's presence. Then she heard it. Not a voice, but a clear, resonant thought in her mind. "You've found me, and you've brought the young one." Kara froze, blinking in confusion. She'd heard rumors of telepathic species, but never encountered one herself. Before she could even form a response, Another wave of thought washed over her. Images, feelings, impressions. The larger creature had been waiting trapped in stasis while its kind vanished, waiting for the return of another of its kind. One that had been taken by scavengers long ago. It was Barnacle. Barnacle chirped softly, hopping down from Kara's shoulder to approach the pod. The two dragons seemed to recognize each other, their connection palpable. Kara stepped closer, her mind swimming with questions. If these creatures had been separated for so long, how had they survived? What was the purpose of this outpost? The telepathic presence shifted, its tone conveying a mixture of gratitude and urgency. The barnacles must be removed. The young one will not survive without our kind's energy. Help me release it from this condition. Kara's determination solidified. Whatever it took, she'd fix this. She wasn't just following a trail anymore, she was part of something far bigger, something ancient and mysterious. And she wasn't going to let Barnacle down. Kara set her tools down on the alien console, her eyes on the glowing stasis pod as it slowly powered up. The larger dragon inside stared at her, its gaze heavy with expectation. It was clearer than ever that Barnacle's condition wasn't a random illness. These barnacles were a side effect of isolation, of some missing connection. If this outpost had been their home, and the larger dragon their guardian, then separating them was like cutting off one half of a circuit. Okay, Kara muttered under her breath. No pressure. Just figure out how to restart ancient alien tech without frying everyone in the process. She tapped a few keys on her datapad, linking it to the alien terminal. The interface had taken hours to decipher, but she'd managed to identify power routing, environmental controls, and most importantly the energy fields used in the stasis pods. The larger dragon's pod had been active for centuries, its occupant protected but unable to leave. Whatever the barnacles had been feeding off before was long gone. If Kara could restore even a fraction of that energy source, maybe the barnacles would detach naturally. Vega's voice crackled over her calm. How's it looking in there? Complicated, Kara replied, her focus still on the terminal. I think I can stabilize the field around the larger dragon's pod. Let it out safely. Once it's out, it might be able to help Barnacle. That's a lot of might, Vega said. And if it doesn't work? Kara didn't answer. She didn't want to think about what would happen if her plan failed. The barnacles were growing. She'd seen new clusters forming along Barnacle's back and wings. If they didn't stop it soon, the little dragon wouldn't be able to fly, maybe even survive. She keyed in another sequence, and the stasis pod hummed. Its surface began to shift, the crystal-like material becoming translucent. Inside, the larger dragon stirred. Kara held her breath as the pod's shielding field collapsed, releasing its occupant. The dragon stepped out, its wings spreading wide. It was larger than Kara had guessed, nearly the size of a small ground vehicle, with scales that seemed to shimmer like sunlight through a pearl. Its eyes, reflective pools of silver, turned to her first, then to Barnacle. The smaller dragon chirped, hopping forward, its barnacles pulsating rapidly. It was almost as if it recognized the other dragon as kin. Kara felt the faint touch of telepathic communication again. Not words, but a sensation of gratitude and calm. The larger dragon lowered its head, its long neck craning down to Barnacle. The barnacles along Barnacle's body twitched, as if reacting to the larger dragon's presence. The moment stretched. Kara found herself holding her breath. And then it happened slowly at first, but unmistakably. The barnacles began to detach. They fell one by one, dissolving into faint motes of light before hitting the floor. Barnacle shivered, flexing its wings as the last crusty growth crumbled away. It's working, Kara whispered, a smile breaking across her face. It's actually working. Barnacle let out a series of trills, hopping around excitedly. The larger dragon seemed amused, if that was the right word, its gaze following the little one's movements. Kara could feel a pulse of something between them, an exchange of energy or emotion. The larger dragon wasn't just helping, it was healing Barnacle in a way no technology or human medicine could. But then her scanner beeped, a warning signal flashing on her data pad. The power in the outpost was fluctuating. Decades of neglect were catching up with them. The systems she'd reactivated were unstable, and if they failed now, the whole station might lose containment. The energy field holding the alien atmosphere inside could collapse, and the structure itself might break apart. "Vega!" she shouted into her comm. "Get the ship ready. This place isn't going to hold." "What about you?" he asked, his voice tinged with concern. "I've got to make sure they get out," Kara said, already moving to secure her gear. "Just be ready to pick us up." The larger dragon seemed to understand the urgency. It lowered itself, extending a wing toward Kara. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed Barnacle, cradling the smaller dragon in one arm, and clambered onto the larger dragon's back. Its wings were smooth and cool beneath her hands, and the muscles beneath its scales flexed as it prepared to move. "Okay," Kara muttered. "Please know how to fly." The larger dragon crouched, then leapt into motion. The corridor became a blur, wind whipping past Kara's face as the dragon carried them through the station's deteriorating passages. Doors slid open, panels sparked, and the structure groaned around them. The dragon moved with a fluid grace, navigating as if it knew the outpost by memory. Ahead, the exit to the landing pad appeared, a glowing rectangle of light. Vega's ship was there, engines already firing. The dragon launched itself through the opening, its wings unfurling in a single powerful stroke. Kara held on tight as they soared toward the Wayfinder. Vega was already yelling something over the comm, but she couldn't hear it over the rush of wind. The dragon landed on the Wayfinder's exterior ramp with a heavy thud. Kara scrambled off, still clutching Barnacle, as Vega opened the hatch and pulled them inside. The larger dragon stepped back, flaring its wings, and then lifted off, circling the ship once before disappearing into the void. "Kara," Vega said, panting. "What the hell was that?" "A friend," Kara replied, her voice shaky but her grin unstoppable. She looked down at Barnacle, now free of barnacles, its wings finally able to extend fully. And a promise kept. As Vega piloted them away from the crumbling outpost, Kara watched the larger dragon fade into the distance, its shimmering form becoming one with the stars. Whatever its purpose had been, whatever ancient duty it once fulfilled, it was free now. And so was Barnacle.